Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Reverend Tim Jack. I'm continuing from last week where I started, and the talk is thanks for everything, if you were here. Thanks for everything. You know, and when we appreciate what we have right here, right now, Spirit in us inspires, I believe, each of us to feel even more alive. And the more alive we feel, the more we're able to move through life. When we don't feel alive, some of the smallest things can show up as the greatest challenges, but yet in another person's life, they could just be a minor obstacle. And I believe that's why the Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman says, don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go and do it. Because what the world needs is more people to come alive. You know, and gratitude is the single most important thing that makes us feel alive. More than money, more than materialistic things, more than cars, more than houses, more than anything. Simple gratitude. And so the question I want to ask for all of us on this morning is if gratitude is so essential, and it's so important, and it costs nothing, why isn't everybody doing it? We're studying a book study. It's the 4-8 principle. We're on the final chapter of the book, chapter 9. The book is available in our bookstore. And reading this book has opened up my mind to some of the most basic, simple ways to transform the way I see the world. And so today, last week I began with the thanks for everything, everything. Today I'm going to talk about some obstacles to gratitude. And next week I'm going to go into a little more about the nature of feeling grateful. Because in chapter 9, Tommy Newberry discusses the obstacles that answer the question, why isn't everybody grateful today? Why aren't we just walking around seeing how blessed we are and how many blessings we have and opportunities? Why is everyone looking at lack and limitation and fear and doubt when almost all of us probably have a home, have a car, have a refrigerator, have our health, have a relationship, have opportunities? Almost all of us have a job. I read this week that Florida unemployment is at 9%. Florida unemployment is at 9%. So whenever I read those things, I've learned to say, oh my God, 91% of us are working. You know, 91% of us have jobs. And so the goal of today is not to focus on the obstacles to gratitude. It's to see when they show up in us and say, stop it. It's to see when we're behaving in a way that separates our mind from simply feeling grateful. It's to recognize, hey, this doesn't make me feel alive, talking like this or acting like this or believing like this. And so I want to avoid this because what the world needs now is for people to just come alive. And so the first obstacle is the sheer velocity of life. Constant commitments, obligations, an inability to say no, unreasonable or reasonable deadlines keep us today preoccupied with urgency in a way that no other generation has. You know, when I was a kid, somebody called me. They left a message on this box at home. It was called a voicemail box. All right? And when I got home, and after I ate, and after I took care of myself, and after I let my dogs out, I would go check my messages. Today, it vibrates on our very belt, okay? When someone wants to get a hold of you. So one thing I've changed over the past year of my life is I do not feel compelled to answer that cell phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I just don't. And I've learned to let the battery die. Because, sometimes that's the only way. And I return the calls and I return the messages after an hour or two of getting home. Okay, but how often do we receive a call that reminds us, or a text that inspires us, or an email that directs us to remember how blessed we are? No, it's usually, I need to talk to you, you're late, I need to see you, I need you, I need. And we think of ourselves, how often do we send a text or an email or a voicemail that says, I'm just so blessed that you're in my life. And so there's two sides to this coin. We can send out the behavior that we want to receive, but none of these technological advances, internet, cell phones, are really geared toward focusing on blessings. And the more we can pull ourselves out of that sheer velocity of life, I believe the more grateful we can become. See, because we face immediate demands all the time. We all have it. We all have it. I have it. I have appointments and classes, and I'm here, and I'm out west, and I have school in Lauderhill, and somewhere we just forget to be grateful. So I'm suggesting today the most important thing not to let go of is being grateful, because we can do that in the car when we're driving in peace. We can do it anytime we're waiting on a line. You see people waiting on a line, and they just lose it because the line. One time I timed people, and it was literally 3.5 minutes. 3.5 minutes is not that long to wait at Costco. Have you ever been in the line in Costco? But I'm telling you, 3.5 minutes, this person behind me, you thought they were sentenced to, 364 in the Dade County Jail. You really thought. It was 3.5 minutes. So this week, my suggestion is we can use this technology. Set a gratitude alarm. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, sometime in the middle of your day, and set an alarm that reminds you to simply say, thank you, God. Remember Meister Eckhart, the 13th century theologian, said, if the only prayer we ever say is thank you, God, that is enough. And so this week, let's try and use this, phone that drives us crazy sometime, and use it for us to start to relanguage gratitude into our very core being, into our life. Let people who see us know we are grateful people, and that we're going to look for the blessing in every situation. The second thing is overexposure to media. This is an obstacle to living a grateful life. The television, the news, they're really good at telling us what's not going well in the world. Okay? They're really good at this. Today's news exposes us to a lot of problems. But try and look for solutions and you won't find any. There's never a solution. They just want us hanging on the problem at 6 o'clock so we turn it back on at 7 o'clock. And then hanging on the problem at 7 o'clock so just in case, there's some other, idea or information at 11 o'clock, we'll stay up. And then the last thing we'll watch is this miserable half hour of 11 o'clock news, and then we'll lay down. That is not healthy living, okay? Tommy Newberry says today's media offers us, Tommy Newberry, the book author, says today's media is an avalanche of information with a complete deficit of wisdom. An avalanche of information. You can learn anything. You Google something, you'll get 700,000 websites. That's one of the challenges I'm having with school is there's too much information out there. I'm trying to focus my dissertation, and there's just too many people writing about everything. You never know if it's true, not true, whether it matters, doesn't matter. But my suggestion on this is that We have books. We have the Daily Word. We have parks by our house. This is what people used to do. Okay? This is what people used to do. Children used to go outside and play. Okay? They used to. Okay? And so my suggestion is we don't have to throw out our TV and throw out the cell phone. No. What we have to do is add a little more balance to our life, the same with the urgency. We have to cut back a little and see if it makes a positive difference on simply how we feel. Remember, Jesus always came apart. He always went apart. He did his work, he healed, he fed, he prayed, he rose Lazarus, and then he went apart. You know, and as a minister, I've learned that's the most important time, is that quiet time. That's when we get ideas, that's when I get inspiration. And there's no more God available to me than every one of you. Believe me, trust me, you know, and so with this mentality, when we recognize we don't have to be human doers, we have to be human beers in our life. And the more we recognize the power of simply being, when we are doing things, we do it in more excellence, more efficiently, quicker, and we get done with it. And so the suggestion is, there is a lot of negativity in the media, and only we can filter it out for ourselves. The third obstacle to living a grateful life, a life of appreciation, is the you owe me attitude. The you owe me attitude, okay? And this is a relatively modern notion. I don't think my parents grew up with the you owe me attitude. I think they grew up with an attitude of, how can we leave a better world? I think it shifted recently. And with this mentality, what happens is, even when we receive something, our first thing isn't thank you, God. It's not a gift, it's a right. Why'd it take so long? Only this? You were supposed to, give me this. And so with this mentality, nothing is quite as destructive for our potential to live a joy-filled life than what Tommy Newberry says is an attitude of entitlement. An attitude of entitlement is rubbing off on far too many people. In fact, he says it's rubbing off on generations to come. And remember, gratitude expands joy. Entitlement shrinks joy. Because even when we get the prayer, and the prayer is answered, even when we're healed, even when we find that relationship, even when we find the relationship, in a few moments we're looking at the character defects and forgetting what the point of the relationship was, which was to have company, which was to have companionship. All right, and so what happens is, closely related to entitlement is familiarity. And what this means is, the longer we're blessed with something, the more likely we are to take it for granted. We've been, this is probably the number one cause for divorce. Is the longer we're familiar with something, the more we are likely to take it for granted. And I'll tell you, I see this in the church often. I see this in the church, where people love their church and come to church. Remember what he said? We're not here to be Siskel and Ebert on Sunday. We're not here to be sitting there critiquing the service. I wouldn't have sang that. Oh my God, the key was a little too high for me. Why does he talk so little? He should talk more. He should talk less. The meditation's too long. The meditation's too short. The music's too loud. Wow, they should turn up the volume on the music. Why the chairs look like this? They should move them that way. But you notice the pattern here is they should. Okay? A lot of people put in a lot of work all week, all month. Board members, singers, they show up, they rehearse. Reverend Tim, the AV team, the hospitality team, a lot of people put a lot of work into this 1 hour. And so if you hear yourself saying they should, I invite you to become us. Okay? I invite you to show up for at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I invite you to help Janie with the coffee, help Millie, with the secretarial work and the board, and help Alex with the AV, help Sam, help Cornelius, help all the people that put in 40, 50, 60 hours so we have a nice, clean, seamless hour that we call church. And so, being grateful is what we're here to do. And to maximize joy, if we're doing this an hour in our Sunday, then I think we need to pay attention. Are we doing this with our jobs? Are we doing this with our jobs? Are we doing this with our relationships? If I'm in a companionship or a relationship, and 96% of that person is everything that I prayed for. But there's this little 4%, 4 minutes out of every 100 minutes or something, if they drive me crazy, notice I'm driving me crazy. Because that's who they were when I met them. That's who they were when we went out. That's who they were when we dated. That's who they were, if we're married, when we walk down the aisle. So get off the 4% or get out of the relationship, and then you'll be pouting, I'm so alone. And don't put it on my Facebook wall because I don't want to hear it. Am I right? Am I right? Either, I'm on team single and I am happy because, just picture hashtag team single, and that's my picture. And I'm fine with it because if a relationship is to come, my first thing is no drama. That's my first thing, I don't need drama. That's where you go to the TV. They call it a soap opera, right? Or una novela. Watch them in Spanish. They're so much more dramatic. You don't even have to understand. You don't have to understand Spanish. You could just see with the facial expressions and the body language. And so familiarity blocks gratitude. Don't become familiar with the blessings God has given every one of us. Health, 2 legs, 2 arms, a beach 3 miles away, family members, friends, everything, technology, to maximize joy for the rest of our life. Make sure we're not taking what we have for granted. The 4th thing is worry, negative forecasting. Worry means we dwell on potential negative outcomes. Worry is not from God. Worry is from our subconscious, from our past. Worry is praying for what we don't want to happen, but think we might happen. And by thinking it might happen, we make it happen. Did you catch that? There's no positive value in worrying. It's more positive to just sit there and say, God, 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 God. That's the golden key to life. Worry is trusting our fears more than we trust God. Now, I know all of us here trust God because we dragged ourselves out of bed to come to church today. And so I know we have a deep, inherent trust for God. That's why, we're studying Philippians 4:8, but Philippians 4:6, Paul says, do not be anxious about anything. Do not be anxious about anything. Anything includes everything. It's not do not be anxious about anything but your little problem or but your little. Do not be anxious about everything. In every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. See, the worst part about worrying is it cancels out gratitude. It really just cancels out. We cannot worry and feel grateful at the same time. Just remember the flashlight I had last week. We cannot, it is impossible for our human mind to be freaking out about something and feeling grateful for it at the same time. And so what happens most of the time is we waver. I trust, I don't. I trust, I don't. I trust, I don't. Well, let me tell you something. They have something at the gym. It's called a Stairmaster. And so if you're going to be jumping back and forth, all right, the aerobics instructor, get some exercise out of it at least. Don't exhaust yourself in your mind and not even burn some calories. I mean, at least if you're going to do it, right? Just jump on that thing, just jump up and down. And so it doesn't have to be like this because we choose our mind. We choose our thoughts. We choose our attitudes. And most of what we worry about, listen to this, most of what we worry about never happens. And so remember that next time you're worried. Remember that the most important thing that I believe is when we're right with God, we naturally cherish our life for exactly what it is. And what life is a temporary gift. It's a treasure with an unknown expiration date. We all have had a situation where we never expected the loss of someone. But we all have that unknown expiration date. And that is the beauty of life. That all the life we have to live is available today when we walk out these doors. And that is what inspires gratitude. That is what inspires us to send that text to say, I love you and thank you for the blessing. That is what inspires us to remember there is nothing missing or lacking in my life because God in me naturally breeds wonder. That is what inspires us to not look ahead and see how far I have to go, but look behind and see how far I have come. You see, that is what reminds us the reason we come to church. We come to church to remember God, simply put. We come to church to remind ourselves of the power and the presence and the love and the life of God in us. We look out into the world with these eyes and we hear and perceive the world with these ears. And if we're forgetting the blessing of the simple experience of life, then we have to change. We have to refocus our eyes. We have to retune our ears. You see, I realize no matter what I have, I realize it came to me by and through God in me. No matter what I have, it's an expression of God. And that's how some days are challenging, but I can just affirm God, 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 God. So I invite each and every one of you to look around this week. Look at your homes carefully. Look at the people in your life. Look at your jobs and give thanks for them. Open your refrigerator, and every time you do this week, for 7 days, just say, thank you, God. Every time you start your car this week, say, thank you, God. Not everybody has a car. Okay? And I grew up in New York. You didn't need a car. In South Florida, without a car, man, you might as well get a horse. I mean, tell me the truth. Did you ever try and get anywhere on a bus in South Florida? I mean, I can get to Atlanta by plane faster than I can get a bus from Miami to Hollywood, okay? Look around this week. Give thanks for everything. See God everywhere. Train your eyes to see God. Train those ears to hear God, because that's the highest form of thinking that our mind can have today, to be aware that everything we have and everything we are and everything we're becoming is a part of God, and we're here to express that God to the world today. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.